Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, football fans of all ages. This is Tim May along with
Bill Rabinowitz.
Bill. We just watched Ohio State once again destroy an opponent, and they did it in a monsoon.
Yes.
Kind of reminded me of the way they destroyed, I'm talking about Illinois today. We're talking Saturday night after Ohio State trounced Illinois, was up, at one point 38-0.
Yes.
And reminded me a lot of the way they did what they did at Nebraska for two reasons. One of which they did trounce Nebraska. Number two was in inclement weather, and it doesn't get more inclement than the rainstorm that hit Ohio Stadium late in the first half.
Yeah, I wrote in my game story that it was like, if you liked watching a car wash, it was like football in a car wash.
You remember that Larry David episode of the Curb Your Enthusiasm the other night when he was watching his car go through the car wash? That's exactly what it was like.
It was raining sideways at times, and I just kept thinking, thank God I'm in the press box.
Yes.
You know? And fortunately for the fans, it wasn't cold. I mean, it was in the 50s, so it could have been a lot worse. If it had been 10 degrees colder, I mean, you really would pity those people. But by middle of the second half, or by the middle of the third quarter, really, the place had emptied out, and understandably so. Nobody would question. I think more people would question why you would stay than why you would leave.
Yeah, Chris Worley even pointed it out. He said, he's been sort of that wet before, but not. It wasn't cold, so it was tolerable. Bottom line is the offensive line came out just like it did a week ago against Michigan State and took control from the start. Mike Weber again hits a home run. The guy who only hit doubles last year has hit 3 home runs in the last 2 games. I'm using that baseball analogy because that's what football coaches use. And then J.K. Dobbins again had another solid game. The running game, they rushed for over 300 yards. And I thought what was important there was the one thing that Urban Meyer, when Illinois was brought up to him several times this past week when he was focused only on practice, the one thing he kept bringing up was their defensive front,
right.
How he thought that was the strength of their team, and it was clear that Ohio State intended to knock down the strength of the team first, and that they did come out throwing a little bit and all that kind of stuff, running some wide stuff with Paris Campbell and then around. But bottom line is they lined up and took it right at Illinois.
They did, and they had an eye on the forecast. They knew that it was supposed to hit around halftime, so they were not going to mess around. Urban Meyer said that if they'd won the toss, unlike deferring and kicking off like they'd done all year, they would have taken the ball first. As it turned out, Illinois won the toss. They deferred. Ohio State takes the opening kickoff, goes right down the field. They scored touchdowns on their first 4 drives, 5 of their first 6 possessions.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Illinois didn't have a first down until there were about 3.5 minutes left in the first half. I mean, This was, we knew Illinois is probably the worst team in the Big Ten. They have started, I think, 16 true freshmen this year. They're building for the future. I don't know if Lovie Smith will be around for that future, but that's their issue, I guess.
Yeah, he's just in his second year, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and this is what a good team does against a bad team. They just suffocate you, give you no hope, and then they move on to the next game, which of course is Michigan.
And as I've said many times, and on these things and other places, I judge a team like Ohio State right now, not just whether it wins, but whether it wins the way it was supposed to win, and it did today. Whether it beat the spread or not, I don't even know what the final spread was on this game, but the bottom line is it took a stranglehold on it. Dwayne Haskins Jr. suffered a fumble that was returned for Illinois' first touchdown, and then the backups on defense gave up another touchdown, I think, in the fourth quarter.
Right.
Bottom line is Ohio State had control of it. And the funny thing about the Dwayne Haskins play was Urban Meyer said, and quote, used the term, he was pissed when that happened because he just thought he saw some backups out there not playing the way they should.
Right.
And he, surprisingly, to his first team offense, especially offensive line, sent the first team offense back in there with J.T. Barrett. And J.T. Barrett, who had thrown his 100th touchdown pass earlier in the game, was in there again late or in the third quarter to throw his 101st. And as Billy Price and Jamarco Jones both remarked, they had already cut the tape. Their tape. They were out of the game, they thought.
Think about that. Think about what would have happened if they go back on the game not being taped. I mean, I don't know if they hurriedly got retaped or not.
I don't think so.
They didn't say anything about that.
No, it's hard to hurriedly get retaped.
Right. But you imagine if something had happened to them.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it did not, and they go into the Michigan game with the momentum that they have been looking for. And Michigan, and their loss to Wisconsin, they lost their quarterback, Brandon Peters, who had actually played pretty well.
Yes.
Or at least better than the previous two quarterbacks. So now it looks like Michigan's going to go with John O'Corn, although I haven't seen any medical updates. We'll see. But, Ohio State wanted to just take care of business, not get anybody hurt. To the best of our knowledge, nobody did get hurt. I think the only surprise today in terms of that kind of stuff was that Jordan Fuller didn't play. Eric Smith played.
Eric Smith, the senior.
Right, senior safety from Glenville, along with Chris Worley. He started today, and nobody asked Meyer what happened with Fuller, so that's just something we'll have to wait till Monday.
Well, you don't get to ask 100 questions in post game.
It was a quick one today.
You only get to ask a couple before the microphone moves down the line. But we'll find out more about that as this week develops. But bottom line, just wrapping up, just the day, Wisconsin beats Michigan, as you said. Peters gets hurt in that game, but the bottom line is Wisconsin beating Michigan and then Ohio State beating Illinois. Ohio State wrapped up the Big Ten East Division slot in the Big Ten Championship game, which is in 2 weeks. You have to follow along here, ladies and gentlemen, because, yes, a lot of people thought maybe Ohio State might be looking past Illinois. I don't know why anybody thought that, because ever since the game at Iowa, every game is a must-win for Ohio State. But the bottom line is this won something for Ohio State. It won that Big Ten East Division title, or clinched at least that slot in the Big Ten Championship game. Now Ohio State goes to Michigan with the game, the pride of winning the game on the line. But then more than that, of course, their intent is to stay very much viable in the college football playoff picture. We'll see where that falls for them, the new rankings which come out on Tuesday. But bottom line is Ohio State has to win out. Now it has an opportunity. That opportunity is now to play all the way through the Big Ten Championship game where they will face Wisconsin, which wrapped up its berth a week ago. But bottom line is Ohio State can check one check mark on its to-do list, although they weren't talking about that a whole lot after the game today.
No, they were ready to turn the page. And that's today they did what they had to do, which was win convincingly, as you figured they would. I still think they have to win convincingly the next 2 weeks to have any real chance. It depends on the chaos, whatever happens elsewhere. But if they're in that mix with other potential two-loss teams, it would behoove them to look really good next week and really good against Wisconsin. Yeah. But they are looking really good right now, so it's possible.
If Wisconsin gets by, I think, Minnesota this coming week, Wisconsin will be in that game undefeated. Might be good chance it could be in the top 4 of the college football playoff rankings by then. I think when they play Wisconsin, they just got to beat Wisconsin to really be in the serious contention, because if in fact they beat, I'm talking about Ohio State, you always want to put the cart, along, which is behind the horse. If Ohio State gets past Michigan this week and then beats Wisconsin and wins the Big Ten Championship with 2 losses, and if Alabama wins out, like I think it might, if Miami wins out, including beating Clemson, I think Ohio State's going to have an incredibly good case to be included in the Final Four. But again, that's down the line. What's the thing that sticks out to you most about what you saw today?
Well, I think
you had 19 seniors, take their last shot
first of all, I think in some ways the appreciation both of the fans and also of the players for this experience that they've had. It's been an up and down year. The Iowa loss is one that will have Ohio State fans shaking their heads for decades, probably.
Not just the fans, the players too.
Players too. That's just a game that was like, where'd that come from? What happened? But this group, these 19 seniors, have provided more highlights, more wonderful moments for Ohio State fans than probably any class in a long, long time.
Yes.
Maybe the 68 class or whatever. A long time, what they've accomplished. And also how they've conducted themselves, presented themselves. It's been a class group. It's, very little trouble off the field.
Yeah.
They interviews, they're very intelligent.
Cordial,
right.
Most of the time.
Yeah, they're not jerks on this team.
Yes.
And I think that the fans appreciate that. They appreciate the wins, obviously, but I also think they appreciate the fact they've done it in the right way.
If I have one more person to ask me, where does JT Barrett fit in the pantheon, or I don't even know if they put him in the pantheon of Ohio State quarterbacks, I'm just going to go, all I'll say now is this isn't a defense of JT Barrett because he doesn't need it, but I have to say is look at the record books. Today he passed for, like I said, his 101st career touchdown pass. Second on that list at Ohio State is Bobby Hoying with 57. you know. And then there are several other records. He went over the 12,000 mark in total offense today, way and above Art Schleister's previous record of 8,400. I mean, he passed that a long time ago. This young man, along with being a class individual, has been a joy to watch play. And, you know, this is what's funny about these senior day activities. This season, seriously, it's just getting started for Ohio State in the sense of what it is playing for. And yet, you know, everybody wants to treat this as a big goodbye. This is just a, well, they won't play here anymore kind of day.
Exactly.
You know, for the third time in Urban Meyer's 6 years now, his team is going to play for the Big Ten championship. That has been assured. We'll see what happens if it's like 2013, though, where they went up and escaped Michigan with that Tyvis Powell interception on the two-point play after they had cemented their place in the Big Ten championship game against Michigan State the week before. And then, of course, they got beat by Michigan State the next week. Who knows what the future holds for these guys? But in many respects, the grit of the season is just coming now.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, even as you started the season, you looked, okay, Oklahoma's obviously a big game, and you looked at Penn State, obviously a big game, and lived up to its billing.
We thought that was the hump game.
And after Iowa and Penn State played, you thought Iowa, and then Iowa had their issues, and then, Iowa,
Iowa was the pothole on the road.
Yes, and then you figure, okay, Michigan State seems to be coming back, but Ohio State took care of them. But now you're right, Tim. This is really where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
This is, if they're the team that they believe that they are, they will show it in Ann Arbor next week. They will show it in Indianapolis, and then they'll show it at least once more in bowl or college football playoff. And that's what, you know, right now we're kind of in this holding pattern. Right now is where they start to determine their true legacy for this year.
Yeah, well, with that rubber meets the road comment, it sounds like you're starting to channel H. Ross Perot. So I think this would be a good spot for us to come to a screeching halt here. Sorry, pardon the expression. But we'll be back a couple of times this coming week. Don't forget it's Thanksgiving week. Be sure to buy your turkey early. But we'll be back to talk about the game, what's going on up in Ann Arbor. I mean, you talk about a must-win for a coach. Nobody's saying Jim Harbaugh's on the hot seat at this point, but wow, things have not gone the way I think a lot of people thought they would with this rebuilding year for the Wolverines. And they've taken some hard losses too, and then losing maybe their starting quarterback today. It's just going to be an interesting week. Let's put it that way. And it's definitely one that you get the sense the Ohio State Buckeyes will not overlook.
No, they will not overlook Michigan. I'll give you that. That's the safest thing, the most.
We'll be back with more sage comments like that and other things later in the week. But until then, this is Tim May
and Bill Rabinowitz. Thanks for watching.